So next we have our last speaker here today before our panel session is Jim Wetzel. Jim is from General Mills, and I've also asked him to speak a little bit about the Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition and what they're doing. I think some of you who haven't been exposed to that might find it a little bit surprising. So please welcome Jim.
So good afternoon. Greg, I was thinking about the speakers that you've had so far, and I kind of asked the group, so what does an energy company, a special chemical company, and a food company have in common? Anyone want to take a shot at that? Platforms. Platforms. We're standing on a platform. We all have platforms. We have platform shoes. We have platform this, platform that. The other thing we have in common, it was interesting sitting there as a food company, listening to a couple of the business slides that kind of went before. We all have disruption and change. So you think about the chemical company, you think about the energy company, now you think about a food company. We all essentially have the same challenges. I could have taken any one of your decks, I could have put them in front of my leadership, and I would have basically said ditto, even though you'd think we're all completely different. So I'm gonna start with, General Mills, what do? We make food. We're a $18 billion food company, global food company. And let me tell you a little bit about my role. My role at General Mills, I've been there a little over 30 years, about 32 years this summer. I'm the Director of Global Reliability, and my day job is to improve our capabilities, sustain that improvement, and extend the capabilities of all of our assets across the globe. So I'm responsible for maintenance globally. I'm responsible for system optimization globally. I'm responsible for the engineering center of excellence around our core competencies of how our processes work. So that's my day job. In my volunteer job, I am the chairman of the Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition. And that is a coalition which I'll talk about, what its journey is and kind of where we are. We've got some very exciting news on that. But our mission is to really develop this open platform that will allow us to kind of go to the next level. Easy, not so easy. This whole topic of platforms and trying to get to some of the things you already heard about from our energy friends and from Eastman Kodak. My journey in trying to do what has been talked about before, this easy, not so easy, it's been not easy at all. It's been not easy at all. I'm going to share a little bit about this journey that you go on to try to make this digital platform. Unfortunately, what we're trying to do is make it easy. And as you attend the booths out in the other conference area, ask them this question: how easy is this stuff to do? How long does it take to configure it? How long does it take to change it? Because I'm going to tell you a story, my General Mills story, and then I'm going to switch this to my smart manufacturing story. Here's my General Mills story. My General Mills story is that I actually started this digitalization journey in 1993. And it started like this: let's just put everything in PLCs and distributed control systems, and let's take every sensor we have and store it. Why? Because at some point in time, in the bottom basically is the business driver, or what I was actually trying to accomplish. All I was trying to accomplish at the beginning is to have some advanced problem-solving skills for our engineers so they could see the picture of what's going on in manufacturing. What's the picture of manufacturing? Trends, plots. Let's take a look at it, right? So I was trying to do that. So we said, we're just going to connect everything we possibly can. That was our mission. Then what was the next big great thing we did? 1998, so almost 20 years ago. Let's put MES in all locations. Again, back at that time, it wasn't called MES, but MES at all locations. What are we going to do? We're going to do quality, manufacturing, performance. We're going to architect, and this was novel at the time. I said, we're going to architect on IS standards, not on control and automation standards. So in 1998, everything was still proprietary. Everyone said, you got to do it my way. And I said, well, I'm not sure how I'm going to hook all this stuff together. Because again, go back to square one, what was my mission? Connect it all up. I'm not going to connect it all up if everything that I'm being offered in control and automation is proprietary. So I started switching and started looking at IT standards. What would be the IT way to do this? What would be the IT way to put a network on a factory floor? Not what a control guy would do, but what would an IT guy do? And our outcome was we did quality and manufacturing reporting. So much of the stuff you saw in scoreboards from the other two companies, we were doing all of that stuff as well back in 1998. 1999, what did we do? We merged the IT department and engineering. So almost again, 15, 16, 17 years ago, this concept of IT and OT, we just keep rebranding the same old stuff, I guess. Maybe that's part of my message today on platforms. We rebranded on IT, OT, we rebranded on Internet of Things, we just rebrand stuff, but we went back to merging this because we knew we couldn't get there from here, so we tried to develop this concept of one team. 2004, we went after manufacturing intelligence. So this whole concept of manufacturing intelligence, dashboard and centralized data, one global plant. And I've told this story before, but if there's any software providers in the room, if you come to do business with General Mills and you happen to run across my desk and the first question you ask me as a sales guy is, how many plants does General Mills have? I'm going to tell you we have one. Because it's irrelevant to the conversation as we think about connected data. If you're trying to size the size of your licensing to the number of walls that we have, we only have one plant. It just happens to be the entire globe. Might have millions of I/O, might have lots of PLCs, might have a lot of historians, but as far as you consider about, we're a world without walls. We need to make windows into that world, and so don't be talking about plant-based licensing and so on and so on. So we did enterprise analytics back in 2004. 2007, our mission was try to figure out how do I get after a demand-driven supply chain? How do I achieve that? So we expanded our MES product. We included SAP integration. We did inbound management, basically started to the stuff outside the factory about inbounds and outbounds and how you actually manage the flow of the conversion process from the materials coming in all the way through the factory that converts it to the outbound side where we're actually delivering our product to our customers. That was in 2007, and now we're on a journey towards smart manufacturing. And this journey on smart manufacturing is around trending in the cloud, using some of these cloud capabilities, traceability across the entire network, visibility and transparency, both internal and external to our company. And that's been our journey. And here's what I've left behind. I call it my ecosystem of stuff. And that is because every one of those capabilities I just told you about is not built on a common platform. Every one of them required an architecture, a database, an application, a specific approach to be able to make that happen. And when I finally retire and I look back at my career, I'm going to be hounded by my iceberg, my ecosystem of stuff, and they say, yeah, Jim, you delivered to General Mills a demand-driven supply chain. What's underneath the cover? What's underneath that water level? When the water starts dropping, what are those rocks that they're going to run into? They're going to be my rocks, where I had to build for-purpose applications that had their own infrastructure, their own connectivity, their own software troubleshooting processes, their own version control, their own upgrades that are going to be needed. And at the end of the day, it becomes a process of stitching all this stuff together. So are we going to end up having a platform of platforms? How many platforms am I going to need to run an ecosystem? Are they going to connect and work themselves together? I think the challenges that we have are many. You take a look at this and you think about, well, what are the integration points? How many non-standard interfaces do I have? Do I have competing technologies between our suppliers? Is this complex and is it poorly understood? And so the one person that knows this platform of platforms, when he quits, you're stuck? What's the contextualization of the data that needs to be exchanged between applications? How fragile is this whole infrastructure? And man, does this cost a lot of money, let alone the speed to actually make it happen. What I really view and what I'm trying to sell inside my own company and externally in my smart manufacturing lens is we got to get after value. We have to meet people where they're at, whether they're sophisticated or simple, and evolve with their own journey. It has to be supportable, it has to be fast, and it has to work. That slide didn't work. We need a common digital platform. And because of that, I got involved in this thing called the Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition. A few of the folks in this room are also members of that. And the other thing down here, it says Clean Energy Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute. So those of you that don't know, this summer, actually a year ago, the Department of Energy requested proposals to go after and create a Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute funded by the Department of Energy that would go after and build a platform, an open platform, that would allow manufacturers to really drive productivity. The proposals that they were looking for would be granted, whoever won would be granted $70 million, and it would have to be a private-public funding, so that the $70 million would have to be matched by this organization. Our organization, the Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition, in fact, bid for this institute, and in June, it was announced that we won. And January 3rd, we opened up our office. Our headquarters are in Los Angeles. And I'll tell you a little bit about the model. I'll tell you a little bit about where this platform stuff is going. But we won. We have over 200 member companies right now involved in this. It's academics, it's national laboratories, as well as industry practitioners. Well, my background slide's all messed up on this. Our vision is to unleash applications to drive industrial competitiveness by enabling an open, real-time manufacturing platform. So those of you who heard the keynote speaker this morning from Exxon talking about an open, what was his second word? Real-time. I think his third word was not manufacturing. I believe it was process control. So we're having discussions with Exxon right now around how we join forces together in this effort. Our mission, is to lead a connected, information-driven, open, smart manufacturing platform that supports real-time, high-value applications that optimize and radically improve your operations. Keywords are highlighted there. When you start, you do a Wordle on what's going on in this whole smart manufacturing space, this is what you see. You see the word platform, you see the word open, you see accessible, affordable, et cetera. This is what our mission is as members of smart manufacturing. And so what's our approach? How are we going to win? How are we going to solve these kinds of issues? We're bringing together a collaboration, and Greg talked about this before, around services or microservices. Sitting on top of a core, and that core is a little different than what you've seen before, and the difference makers are, it kind of doesn't work, you can't really see it. Workflow as a service is probably the largest difference maker in this whole thing, in that as you think about the actors and the actions that we need to make, we really believe that having a workflow engine in the cloud that actually can connect and be connective tissue is really important. So as you might think about questions you might want to ask, and you think about, back to Greg's earlier slide, how many platforms do I need to have to run my business? And Greg, I don't know how many you had in that stack. There might have been, literally if there was only one for each one of those, there might have been 7 or 8 different platforms involved. If you had to do analytics all the way down to you have to do control. And you think about that and go, how does that get integrated? How does that get connected? How does that work? And in smart manufacturing, we believe that we can contextualize that information. We can provide a workflow engine. We can coordinate and connect other platforms together, as well as meet you where you're at and start this journey on platforms. So what does it look like? It kind of looks like this. If you start at the bottom of this slide with basically those database objects of calibration and maintenance, which we heard about from the energy side, production models, sensor data, you already have something, right? So the idea here is that everyone start all over. The idea here is that you meet people where they're at. You don't say, okay, if you want to have a platform and you want to go after transitioning your business and having disruptive change, the first thing you don't say is get rid of everything you have. Instead, we say, no, where are you? Oh, you only have information from people? Okay, that's cool. How do we get that data from a person? Oh, wait a minute. You have some sensors on PLCs. You have some historians. You have this. You have that. You have to meet people where they're at through this bottom layer. Then to be able to do something with this, and we heard this from Eastman as well, is that all this data, whether it's a bazillion, a quadrillion, whatever the number happens to be, it's about action that gives you business results. So as you think about that action, what do you need to do to take that raw data that you're getting from your factory or your supply chain? What do you need to do to actually make it actionable? You have to contextualize it, and then you have to have an application on top of it that does something with it. That application on top of it could be an analytical engine, it could be visualization, it could be mathematical modeling of some form. But this whole idea of contextualization is currently unsolved in the marketplace today. So the speaker this morning hinted at that. He used the word global namespace. And he said one of our challenges is how do we have a global namespace for all the information that we're going to collect and do process control on in a platform. So imagine that your platform was not a homogeneous environment of stuff that you knew everything about, but a mixture of stuff. And all of that stuff had different context because the data that's captured from the factory floor is whatever context that vendor provided it in. So if it was time series data, it's daytime value, right? Date and time and value. But if it was a maintenance record, it could be work order, job plan, it could be mechanic number, it could be all sorts of different stuff. When you're trying to ultimately solve some difficult problems, where you want to understand how fast something's deteriorating, who was doing the work, do I have a skill problem, do I have an equipment problem, do I have a parameter problem, you need to put contextualization together. And what we're working on in smart manufacturing is doing that contextualization in a cloud and being able to put together these hodgepodge, these mixtures of data sources so we contextualize so that we can have applications work on it. So we do that stuff. Then the other part, and it was actually mentioned this morning as well, was this concept of a marketplace. This concept of if in fact I have a platform that can do these things, then could I go to a marketplace and add on the features that I need so that the platform for a small company doesn't look like the same platform as a large company, yet under the hood it's all the same stuff. It's just that the large guy bought more features than the small guy. So we would have an open marketplace that would allow entrepreneurs to do what they do best, and that is not architect, but is to solve problems. So the whole idea there is that you don't have to build the infrastructure will be done by the platform. The solution would be done by the entrepreneur or a third party or a big company that's going to create software. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what are we doing? We're either going to measure, control, and optimize. If we're in kind of a plant floor, automation and control world, or we're going to go across these seams and contextualize and then optimize if we're much more in a supply chain kind of mentality. Another view of the platform that we're talking about, very similar to what you might have seen this morning, real-time data and modeling, the key word again here, workflow, to be able to connect this stuff together and act on it. And then with the performance metrics and the workflow apps and toolkits to enable that. So our reference model looks like this. On the blue side is Greg talked about this briefly, this concept of services. Everything would go into services. Workflow would be a service. We'd have microservices for connectivity. We'd have data models, historians, secure data connections to be able to go to your third-party stuff, whether it be any of the vendors that are in this room or any vendors that are outside. And then the concept of a marketplace where you can go nuts with entrepreneurs and other parties being able to contribute their solutions. So what's different on this platform? First of all, it's open. Second of all, it's this concept of bringing the data to the application instead of the application to the data. It's a more efficient way of doing engineering because we're trying to find this easy button. You know, the holy grail is try to make this stuff much easier. And it's highly layered to be able to connect to a series of products. How we're coming forward with this and what the shot in the arm that we're getting from the U.S. Department of Energy is this Clean Energy Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute that we won in June that is now open for business in January. Like I said, we have 200 members, and the blue dots on the map really represent the contributing facilities that are part of our regional program that we have. And so, yes, we're headquarters in Los Angeles. We have 5 regional institutes, one up in the Northeast, that's the center is at the Pacific National Labs. We have one in Los Angeles, we have one in Texas at Texas A&M, we have one in North Carolina at the University of North Carolina, and then we have another institute in the Northwest hosted at RPI. And these academic organizations are regional centers of knowledge that are going to take these platform concepts and bring it to the market. And they're going to bring it into those regions, and then those regions have customers. So obviously down in Texas, we've got oil and gas folks that are going to bring their problems forward into the Smart Manufacturing Institute. So this is big news. This is a big deal. Like I said, we're just starting on this journey. This platform topic is perfect and spot of mind. So I thank Greg for allowing me to participate in this session today. And I'm sure you'll have a bunch of questions about that. And that's what I have. Thank you.